Okay, I'm Lawrence Eller from Cross Keys Homes, a social landlord in Peterborough. And I'd like to show you how a targeted investment programme, we've retrofitted our homes and reduced the carbon emissions within our stock, whilst also addressing some of the issues around fuel poverty amongst our tenants. Cross Keys Homes, although a social landlord, it only represents a small percentage of the overall housing stock in Peterborough. It houses some of the most potentially fuel poverty-stricken residents by way of their income, with over 75% of our residents receiving some form of housing benefit. Since 2004, Cross Keys Homes has retrofitted its stock in order to not only reduce carbon emissions, but also to address some of the fuel poverty issues it has amongst its homes. Following our Decent Homes programme in 2005, Cross Keys Homes launched its Home Improvement Standard to all of its tenants. This standard set out how we would maintain our stock beyond decent homes and target the ongoing issues of ever-increasing fuel poverty amongst its tenants. It directly set out how we would target homes and further insulation measures and ensure that these works were all undertaken by 2015. So what did the standard set out to do? Well, nothing too significant here, just ensuring good thermal insulation measures to all our homes and recording of any efficiencies that we made. We ensured all our homes would be given a rating system to highlight the need for any works. How we set about to reduce emissions and improve thermal efficiency. We kept work simple, not getting involved in expensive systems for heating homes which the end user couldn't easily use. We ensured all works were driven by energy surveys rather than any assumptions we had about our stock. Always targeting the main fabric first wherever possible. We aim to obtain as much grant funding through the CESP and CERTS schemes through consortium bidding where our stock numbers would not warrant any grant in their own right. We involve tenants at all levels throughout our process, using our Green Scene and Resident Liaison working groups set up to target ways of reducing emissions and any other green issues we had amongst our stock. In terms of raising awareness, it was no good undertaking all of these works without changing people's behaviours towards heating their homes. We had to raise awareness through our energy surveys and certificates, along with consultations with our tenants following any works. We have highlighted energy usage through giving out free energy survey meters to all of our new tenants, giving tips on fuel-saving measures and ensuring energy tariffs were right for them. We also issued around 15,000 energy-efficient saving bulbs to all of our tenants. We employed a member of the staff from the PEC team to visit our tenants who had refused these works, which typically were our most vulnerable elderly tenants, who also were at most risk of fuel poverty. This intervention has seen the works not only being undertaken, but significant savings to those tenants' heating bills. On the ground, works have been undertaken over the past 8 years with varying degrees of disturbance to our tenants, from external wall insulation to simply topping up loft insulation. Engaging our tenants has been key to successful installation and convincing tenants that the works will make a real change to their fuel bills. The reality on the ground is not much to see at completion, so the changes had to be evidenced to our tenants through their fuel bills and demonstrating those who had works undertaken previously's fuel bills to other tenants seeking works. Measuring the outcomes of retrofitting to our stock and evidencing any savings. We set a target of 72 for all of our homes by 2015. This was a fairly ambitious target, as in 2004, the average SAP rating of our homes was only 61.46. Average ratings tend to hide the real issues around fuel poverty amongst our homes, with typically new build properties propping up average SAP ratings of RSLs. Our new target of 72 for every home would ensure all properties would be looked at in the same light. By meeting this target of 72, we also worked out we would save around 45% on CO2 emissions within our stock. So what did it all cost Cross Keys Homes? As you can see, it's not been a cheap exercise, and it's still taking a serious amount of investment. With over £3 million we still think we need to invest in our stock to meet our goal of 72. Arguably, most of the investment has gone on either heating systems or other boilers, which would have required replacement due to age. But installing Class A boilers alone, we estimate we've spent around £7 million. So in terms of savings made to tenants, here you can see a typical savings made to a tenant following the works. The property was around 64 before the works and is now 72, which has given an annual saving of around £604 for the tenant. Assuming the spend that we made of around £28 million, you can see that if you theoretically paid back with the savings the tenants received, we would have paid for the works after 7 years. We have proved through our installations that insulating the building fabric will always give the largest savings, but we also require further sustainable energy systems to reach our target by 2015. Our hopes, as many other RSLs have been, that the government's feed-in tariff would be propping up investments in sustainable energy systems through either direct installation through PV for free models. So to demonstrate the results so far, to demonstrate the savings made to date, I've shown the impact on our SAP ratings and CO2 emissions taken from our energy surveys, both pre and post works. As you will see, the SAP ratings has taken a slow increase year on year. However, to best demonstrate the shift in ratings of our properties, we have shown the government's A to E rating of our homes, as defined by the energy performance certificates we have issued within our properties. Here you can clearly see the shift from predominantly D and E rated homes in 2003-04 to B and C rated homes in 2011. Our further programmes of work will hopefully see all our homes move to A to D by 2013, and then we'll need to rely on sustainable energy systems to get the rest of the stock to be rated at C by 2015. This graph, I suppose, shows what it's really all about. As well as saving money on fuel bills, our CO2 emissions have reduced year on year, with a 34% reduction so far to date since 2004. And we still believe that we're on a target to save around 45% in CO2 by 2015. Again, we think that this will only be achievable through using alternative energy solutions. So what next? What alternative solutions do we go for? The government's feed-in tariff is not necessarily dead in the water, with PV for free schemes starting to re-emerge in the market. Funders seem to have accepted a form of licence or lease that's acceptable for these rent-a-roof schemes. Can residential social landlords, through their demand alone, drive costs down sufficient to invest themselves, bearing in mind the increased interest rates from funders? The new heat incentive tariff is being launched by the government, but will this stack up with the technologies available out there? And finally, is the Green Deal really going to deliver anything for social landlords? Sustainable energy systems. Cross Keys Homes has already installed pilot schemes on its general needs housing, flattered blocks, and indeed its own offices in Shrewsbury Avenue in Peterborough. We've done this to investigate the large-scale rollout of PV amongst its stock. We have concluded that we should be able to achieve an install cost of around £1.60 a watt, or £4,000 for a typical 2.5 kilowatt system on a property. Payback with the lower feed-in tariff should therefore be in around year 18, assuming a capital cost of 3% on our borrowing, although this may now not be achievable with increased borrowing rates. We may require working with PV for free companies, therefore, to achieve our targets if we investment funding is not made available or is not cost effective. We do not believe that the Green Deal will offer a solution, as most of our tenants will not be able to afford through their fuel bills the cost of these systems. And as a landlord, we also see other issues around reletting properties with essentially a debt to the incoming tenant. So what is the solution? Well, Crosskeys Homes does believe the solution is through installing sustainable energy systems to properties which still fall below its target of 72. And we will need this in order to reach its target by 2015. We believe through demand and consortium buying, costs will be driven down to an affordable level, and with any remaining feed-in tariff, we should be able to start installing systems over the next 12 months in order to meet our target by 2015. Our real decision is whether we invest ourselves or we opt for a rent-a-roof type scheme. At this point, we remain undecided, but we still have pledged to our tenants that all our homes will achieve a rating of 72 by 2015, and believe that this still will be achieved. What we do need is for manufacturers and installers to take the leap of faith and start to reduce the cost of these systems. As I am sure, once the capital cost of these systems come down, both private owners and social landlords will start to install in far greater numbers. So that's where I'd like to end, really, with a challenge to all the manufacturers and installers out there to try and reduce the cost of sustainable systems, and be assured that if they do, both private and social landlords will start to buy these systems in far greater numbers and start to make a real impact on both fuel poverty and the CO2 emissions within Peterborough. Thank you, and thank you for listening.